Time flies. Hard to believe, isn't it, that it's been almost a year that we've been meeting online. The 15th of March 2020 was the last time we gathered in the building. I don't know for you, this last year, has it flown by or has it dragged its heels? Amazing though, isn't it, the time that has passed. It's the same when we look back at our own lives. Last week, Janet had one of those reminders pop up in Facebook, a photo that was taken 10 years ago. Our two boys, hard to believe they were ever quite that small and cute. In many ways, it feels like yesterday, but those days are gone and they've passed in the blink of an eye. Life is short. That's been one of the messages we've seen in Ecclesiastes. But the teacher doesn't want us to despair. He wants us to live well in these few short years that God has given us. And in these final chapters, the theme is the passage of time. There's an urgency about life, a window of opportunity. So we're going to read first from chapter 9. And I've called this, While There Is Life, There Is Hope. When I applied my mind to know wisdom and to observe the labour that is done on earth, people getting no sleep day or night, then I saw all that God has done. No one can comprehend what goes on under the sun. Despite all their efforts to search it out, no one can discover its meaning. Even if the wise claim they know, they cannot really comprehend it. So I reflected on all this and concluded that the righteous and the wise and what they do are in God's hands. But no one knows whether love or hate awaits them. All share a common destiny, the righteous and the wicked, the good and the bad, the clean and the unclean, those who offer sacrifices and those who do not. As it is with the good, so with the sinful. As it is with those who take oaths, so with those who are afraid to take them. This is the evil in everything that happens under the sun. The same destiny overtakes all. The hearts of people, moreover, are full of evil, and there is madness in their hearts while they live. And afterwards, they join the dead. Anyone who is among the living has hope. Even a live dog is better off than a dead lion. For the living know that they will die, but the dead know nothing. They have no further reward, and even their name is forgotten. Their love, their hate, and their jealousy have long since vanished. Never again will they have a part in anything that happens under the sun. Well, these verses pick up many of the things we've seen already in Ecclesiastes. The teacher gives us a bit of a recap. We're limited creatures living in a fallen world, a world made beautiful by God, but frustrated by sin and rebellion. So here again, we have the three great frustrations: toil, injustice, and death. Verse 16, I applied my mind to know wisdom and to observe the labour that is done on earth. People getting no sleep day or night. Work is hard and never ending. And there's no certainty of justice in this world. The hearts of people are full of evil, and there's madness in their hearts. No one knows whether love or hate awaits them. There are no guarantees that upright living will lead to a better life or that wickedness will lead to misery. We cannot predict the course of our lives, and we can't control them. We're creatures. God is in control. The righteous and the wise and what they do are in God's hands. And then there is death. Death is certain, death is indiscriminate. All share a common destiny, the righteous and the wicked, the good and the bad. This is the evil, the great injustice in everything that happens under the sun. The same destiny overtakes all. Death is indiscriminate. There's no escape. You only have to spend 10 minutes in a graveyard to realise that. The scullery maid and the member of parliament, the chimney sweep and the lady of the manor, nothing but names on a stone. And yet, despite the frustrations, the teacher wants us to hear loud and clear that life is precious. We are to make the most of these few years. While there's life, there's hope, he says. So verse 4, Anyone who is among the living has hope. Even a live dog is better off than a dead lion. It's a great picture, isn't it? The majestic strength of the lion. It means nothing lying dead at the side of the road. Life trumps everything. Far better to be even a dirty mongrel, a stray dog, and to be alive. I think most of us would agree, but the reason he gives, well, I think it's quite a surprise. So look down at verse 5. Anyone who is among the living has hope because the living know that they will die, but the dead know nothing. Striking, isn't it? The reason that life offers hope is because it's better to know that we're going to die. Last week in chapter 7, we said that wisdom remembers the end. Life is better because it offers the opportunity to respond to that reality, to live in the light of our death and to live in the light of our short time span. Well, how then should we live? What does it mean to live well in these short years? Well, certainly it involves enjoying God's gifts with gratitude to him, savouring the gift, we said, didn't we, back in week 1? And he goes on to say that here in chapter 9. But I want to skip to chapter 11, where we get a fuller answer. Reading from chapter 11, verse 7. Light is sweet, and it pleases the eyes to see the sun. However many years anyone may live, let them enjoy them all, but let them remember the days of darkness, for there will be many. Everything to come is meaningless. You who are young, be happy while you are young, and let your heart give you joy in the days of your youth. Follow the ways of your heart, and whatever your eyes see, but know that for all these things God will bring you into judgment. So then, banish anxiety from your heart and cast off the troubles of your body, for youth and vigour are meaningless. Remember your Creator in the days of your youth, before the days of trouble come and the years approach when you will say, I find no pleasure in them, before the sun and the light and the moon and the stars grow dark, and the clouds return after the rain, when the keepers of the house tremble and the strong men stoop, when the grinders cease because they are few and those looking through the windows grow dim, when the doors to the street are closed and the sound of grinding fades, when people rise up at the sound of birds but all their songs grow faint, when people are afraid of heights and of dangers in the streets, when the almond tree blossoms and the grasshopper drags itself along and desire no longer is stirred, then people go to their eternal home and mourners go about the streets. Remember him before the silver cord is severed and the golden bowl is broken, before the pitcher is shattered at the spring and the wheel broken at the well, and the dust returns to the ground it came from, and the spirit returns to God who gave it. Meaningless, meaningless, says the teacher. Everything is meaningless. That word, you remember, literally means vapor or breath. It could just as well be translated as temporary, short-lived. And that seems to fit the context here better, doesn't it? Fleeting, fleeting, says the teacher. Everything is fleeting. I'm reading on. Not only was the teacher wise, but also he imparted knowledge to the people. He pondered and searched and set in order many proverbs. The teacher searched to find just the right words, and what he wrote was upright and true. The words of the wise are like goads, their collected sayings like firmly embedded nails given by one shepherd. Be warned, my son, in anything in addition to them. Of making many books there is no end, and much study wearies the body. Now all has been heard. Here is the conclusion of the matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the duty of all mankind. For God will bring every deed into judgment, including every hidden thing, whether it is good or evil. Well, here's our second point. While there is youth, there is opportunity. You see, our time is limited not only by death, but also by deterioration. Even as we live, our bodies gradually decay. I guess that's why elite sports people retire in their 30s, isn't it? Well, I'm not as young as I was, and some of you are considerably older than me. The Bible does have positive things to say about aging, the wisdom that comes through the years. But the teacher here paints a less flattering picture of our later years. Now, I'm not suggesting any of us are there already, but perhaps we recognize some of these realities. He pictures it like a storm, gathering clouds that turn light into darkness. Strength gives way to trembling and stooping in verse 3. Teeth begin to fall out and the eyes grow dim. Verse 4, people rise up at the sound of birds. They're woken at the slightest sound, and yet their hearing grows faint. White hair begins to appear like almond blossom, and confidence gives way to fear and vulnerability. His point is that as we grow old, we're less able to enjoy all the good gifts that God has given. Desire is no longer stirred, the teacher says. They're days of trouble. The years approach when you will say, I find no pleasure in them. Until finally, verse 6, the silver cord is severed, the golden bowl is broken. They're images of a broken body. The dust returns to the ground it came from, and the spirit returns to God who gave it. So verse 10, youth and vigour are fleeting, that the time of opportunity is short. So while you're in the prime of life, while you have energy, while you have light and opportunity, make the most of it. It's a message especially for the young amongst us, but whatever stage of life we're at, make the most of the opportunities we still have. Time is short. And so verse 8, light is sweet, and it pleases the eyes to see the sun. However many years anyone may live, let them enjoy them all, but let them remember the days of darkness, for there will be many. We have an expression, don't we, to make hay while the sun shines. And that's the sense here. The darkness of old age will come, so live life to the full, the teacher says. Enjoy it. Let your heart give you joy in the days of your youth. Be curious, follow your passions, follow the ways of your heart, he says, whatever your eyes see. And don't let uncertainty stop you having a go, taking a chance. Invest in 7 ventures, yes, in 8, for you do not know which will succeed, whether this or that. While there is youth, there is opportunity. Or perhaps you're wondering at this point, is the teacher just having a kind of a midlife crisis? Go and buy a motorbike before you get too old. Is he really saying anything more than our secular friends? Don't miss out, seize the day, you only live once, people will tell us. But for the teacher, there is something more to this enjoyment, something much deeper than mere frivolity. Life to the full is found in living in right relationship with God. So here's our third point. While there is opportunity, fear God. We've seen in previous weeks, haven't we, that true enjoyment comes from accepting the things of this world, work, family, love, possessions, accepting them as what they are, as good gifts from our loving Creator. And in this chapter, as we receive God's gifts, we are to remember Him. To remember Him is more than simply acknowledging His existence. It is to acknowledge who He is and to turn to Him. One writer puts it like this: to remember God is to abandon all illusion of independence and self-sufficiency as God regains the rightful centrality in our lives. See, the essence of wickedness is to turn our back on God, to enjoy the creation while we reject the Creator. To live well is to enjoy God's gifts in dependence on the giver, living in trust and fear and obedience. So the greatest priority in these few years, while we have youth and vigour, is to be in right relationship with God. Chapter 12, verse 1, remember your Creator in the days of your youth. Turn to God, walk under his direction while you still have the opportunity, before old age overtakes, before death comes, and before judgment is final. There's an urgency in the teacher's appeal. Remember your Creator. That's what it means to live well. He is eternal. All good gifts come from him. They're found in him. And we are answerable to him for how we use them. So verse 9, follow the ways of your heart and whatever your eyes see, but know that for all these things, God will bring you into judgment. You see, in this fallen world, there are no guarantees. There's often injustice, but we don't ultimately live in a closed system. There is a God who sits outside and above, and the teacher knows that in the end, he will do justice. He will put all things to rights. It's not a new idea. It's not a great twist at the end of the book, as if chapter 12 contradicted the teacher's message so far. Right back in chapter 3, he told us that God will bring into judgment both the righteous and the wicked. For there will be a time for every activity, a time to judge every deed. All the way through, we are finite, but God is eternal. We cannot control the twists and turns of life, but God sets the times. He makes everything beautiful. He sees the beginning and the end. And then last week in chapter 7, we saw, didn't we, that wisdom lies in knowing our place, recognizing that we're limited creatures, that we are dependent on him. Well, the writer sums it up like this. Now all has been heard. Here is the conclusion of the matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the duty of all mankind. For God will bring every deed into judgment, including every hidden thing, whether it is good or evil. To fear God is to treat him as the awesome God that he is. It's trembling trust. It's to make him central, our first concern. We don't see the whole picture. We can't always know what is right, so we must listen to him and walk in obedience to his direction, to his commands. The teacher put it well back in chapter 5. Do you remember? God is in heaven and you are on earth, so let your words be few. Well, as New Testament believers, we know a bit more about God's judgment. We know that Jesus will be the judge. We have more detail about the outcomes, good and bad, but the message is the same. As the Apostle Paul said when he was preaching in Athens, the God who made the world and everything in it, he has set a day when he will judge the world with justice by the man he has appointed. He has given proof of this to everyone by raising him from the dead. And therefore, he says, now God commands all people everywhere to repent. Now is the time. Don't delay. Remember your Creator in the days of your youth. Fear God, keep his commands, for this is the duty of all mankind.